blame the elder brother that you should be more you should be more understanding. She is your sister, so I tend to blame the brother for the sister, and that has been the norm anyway.
Shall we get that?
I got that. Thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being honest. So between my brother and I am 8.5 years older than my younger brother, and he is the youngest, so he's the baby of the family. And whenever he would do something wrong as a child, I would get into trouble, right? Because it now became my fault that he did something wrong.
Yeah.
Completely understand. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Yes. Okay. Another good example of unconscious bias is a family rushes into the hospital and they see two individuals, a woman obviously with a stethoscope on her neck, then they see a nurse, a male nurse in his scrubs. They just go to the male nurse and say, "Excuse me, doctor, please, can you attend to my daughter or my father or something like that?" And the woman is in her doctor's coat with her stethoscope, but because she's a woman, she must be the nurse.
That's a very great example of unconscious bias. Wow. Wow. Anyone else would like to would share an example?
Anyone else?
Relates to the bias or perceived bias of journalists and news organizations in mass media. So when we're talking about mass media, we're talking about like big time overall, like an overall news, okay? Not just, so this normally implies with widespread bias that impacts the standard of journalism rather than bias in a perspective of one journalist or article. So just because of one journalist speaks about it or one article speaks about it, we are now talking about mass media, okay? So maybe media across an entire newspaper or a bias across an entire country in the news, or globally there's this bias in the media, okay? So can anyone tell me why is it problematic to have media bias? What are some of the problems that can be faced if there's a media bias? So why do you think it's a problem for the media to be biased?
Okay, it's a problem for the media to be biased because through the person's bias or the journalist's bias, he could spread or disseminate information, like malinformation, disinformation, and misinformation. Whilst, because it's clouded, his judgment is clouded, and he decides to pass out information that is not entirely true, or it may be true, but because it's warped, and things like that.
I'm sure you training program to help with that answer. Well done. Is there anyone else?
Okay, the information will not be balanced.
I'm speaking to, so you can maybe introduce
It
yourself.
must be a balanced information to be skewed to favor some side of the of the reports of the public society. So when a media is biased, it's not a balanced report. Media is not supposed to be a bias in their reportage.
Thanks. Any more, Joseph?
Yes, one more.
Know who I'm speaking to?
Okay. Go ahead.
If the media is biased in its report, there is every tendency to, incite the larger society against a particular sect of the society where the report does not favor.
Okay, thanks. Well done. Well done. Joseph, can I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So here are some problems with examples. So some of the problems that can occur is that it can now become politically motivated. So you may have seen this. Particular parties, political parties are favored in certain newspapers and not in certain newspapers or across different areas within the country where the reporting takes place. Okay. This could be because, the political parties pay these papers, etc. This could lead to censorship, so distorted views of issues, okay? So if you only talk about one side of the story, people only get that one side of the story and don't see a complete view of the story, okay? Then we can have propaganda. So this is only in extreme cases that people can now become brainwashed, okay? Then you get divisions in society, negative stereotypes and poor treatment of people. So for example, in the Data and Religion project, if you're writing negative stereotypical topics about a particular religious group who aren't really doing any harm, then these people may now become, ostracized by the community. Now, I want you to tell me, have you noticed any of these happening within the news industry in Nigeria? All the participants are from Nigeria, I believe. Joseph?
Yes.
Okay. So in Nigeria, or maybe within the West African region, have you noticed any of these taking place in any of the news medias? You don't have to state the name of the newspaper or whatever, but you can give examples of particular stories or where you've seen this come across without making mention of of particular names.
My name is Innocent Aiton. I want to quickly state before actually giving my example. Most of the media here are owned by politicians, so that's common. No. I can mention names and tell you the ownership. I can mention names and tell you the ownership. I know what I'm saying. So I'll give this example. In 2015, when we were about to have a general election, there was this guy who was the editor-in-chief of a particular media outlet, a newspaper, a national daily, and then he wrote an article and titled it, "We need Buhari more than he needs us." I mean, he was the editor-in-chief of this particular media outlet, and then Buhari, of course, was a presidential candidate then. He eventually won the election. And then apart from that, he wrote several articles that we keep referring to every time we talk about media bias, I mean, someone in that position, people were saying you shouldn't write this because you're supposed to be a neutral umpire.
Thank you. Trisha, did you get that?
Yes, I've got it.
Okay, we have two more persons who wants to respond.
Okay, Trisha. There's a particular problem I want to state, but it's not there, but it's something like it could be economically, they're economically motivated. Like there's a certain very wealthy individual in Nigeria who the media portrays as generous, lovely, and everything, but not all of us are deceived. So when he when he has a problem with some of his workers, he hasn't paid them, or when he lays some of them up, or he closed part of his business, no media, none, reported it. They were rioting in that place for days. They were demanding their pay, but nobody covered it because he silenced all of them with his whatever he does with them.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. I always like to recall this story. A long time ago, at the beginning of my career, I worked for a small community radio station. And the owner of the radio station had a problem with the governor of the state at that time. And then one morning he came to the station and said, Al-Qasim, I'm having a problem with the governor of the state. So please, anytime you read the news, make sure you put embattled before the governor's name. I know he's not having any issues, but I just need you to put embattled. So if there was a news item, for example, I'll go like the fertilizer distribution program is being flagged off this morning by the embattled governor of Niger State, Governor Abdulkadir Kure, and all that. And the people in government were wondering what battle was the governor facing. They didn't know that it was an instruction from the boss that since they were in conflict, embattled should be added as a prefix to him. But once the beef was squashed, we also had to remove embattled from the newsroom. I thought to answer, to use that illustration. Thank you.
Okay, who else? Okay.
Yeah, I am aware that there's a newspaper in Nigeria, a national daily, owned by a top politician, and you'll be surprised that even when Nigeria is going down, people are dying, the newspaper will prefer to wish the principal happy birthday with about 100 pages and the wife, and they leave matters that really affect the citizen unattended to, and all they want to do is to see this the man, and you see all the governors of the entire country wishing the man happy birthday. So basically, for me, this is a bias because the platform move away from its core value of speaking for the masses, then to now say, okay, let's praising our founder.
What if those things are actually advertisements and then paid for by individuals across? Are you saying that they should reject it, knowing that most newspapers in Nigeria are funded
at the expense of public good?
But they are going to be news reports, but those are adverts, and then you know that just like most online get they get their funding from grant, they get theirs, newspaper gets theirs from advertisement. But are you saying that should there's, as much as there's the ethical, there's also the business side?
What is the essence of a media? Now the question is, what is the essence of a media outlet if not
but
to
those adverts
dish
do not
information?
run every day. They don't run every day.
So the bomb blast that then happened that you need to report will wait till I don't know.
Okay. I'm sure you can hear the argument here, Trisha.
Yes, I can hear there's a lot of discussion going on, which is good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, I'm letting them continue.
All right. Maybe one or two more responses here.
I was about saying sometimes not the editor in chief or probably the publisher. Even among the editors, something happened years ago. I think there was a sexual assault issue. My school, I graduated from. So I know the lecturer. The lecturer used to be my friend. In fact, he's still my friend. And the story of he attempted to rape. And I called him. 24 hours after the event, I was surprised. I saw the story on Punch, Guardian, and I called those who wrote the story. Good enough, they are my friends. I said, why would you write this kind of story? Did you even call the second party? To cut the long story short, one of them replied. He said, my boss asked me to write. I said, so you didn't contact the lecturer, you only wrote the side of the lady. So I was angry. So I didn't take side. What I did was, I went to the school, I interviewed the registrar, I interviewed the lecturer, I also interviewed the students. Then I submitted the story. The story took like, I think 2 months. And I was wondering, and I discovered that the provost of the institution is a member of the Guild of Editor. So now they were now scared. The editors were like, why should I publish story that I know will tarnish the image of the institution I know, my colleague? Then I now told my editor, I said, ma, I didn't take side. I only wrote what happened, what the institution said. I said, the lady and the lecturer. Eventually, after another 2 months, the story was published. Now this is it. Sometimes we feel the publishers. Sometimes we feel probably political views and everything. But even the editors, I don't know, probably the guilds of editors, the caucus and everything, they influence stories and sometimes they are being biased. And a very good testimony, the good testimony from me. That lecturer, when the story was, circulating and everything, he couldn't get a job. But after the story, he just called me and said, wow, I got a job in Ibadan. Thank God. Clap for me now.
All right.
Hello. I'm not going to mention my media organization, but I'm going to say that it's a government one and it's highly censored. Recently, we all know about the case of Deborah that was, murdered, and we're given an instruction because people were reacting, and they said, I'll read this. The managing director has directed that no stories on Deborah and Sokoto crisis must be carried out. You understand? Can you imagine that? So we don't talk about it. We just put it down. No story more, except it's from a story, anything from the presidency or security agency. So everything is skewed towards government. That is media bias of the highest order. But we can't do otherwise because we are paid by government. So that's it.
Just one more.
Okay, sure.
Okay, media bias in Nigeria sometimes is tinted towards the ethnic lines. Like the media in the south will support any narration around the southwest, the southeast. The media in the north will support those of the narrations of the north. And you see that play out during last year's saga when a communal clash happened in Oyo State in the southwest. And you see how it is so glaring how the media organization have leanings on the way they reported. So it's just like a case of we see in America where there is the blue and red stuff, the leftists and the rightists. It's the same way in Nigeria. Ethnic or religious bias is always so prominent in media narrations.
So the side of one particular ethnic group and another particular ethnic group is living in that area, people will now be stereotypical, and there'll be poor treatment of people of the other ethnic group. Do you think?
Yes, sure.
Cool. Can I move on now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone for participating. Now I'm going to go through GMMP. So GMMP is the Global Media Monitoring Project. And this is the world's longest running study on gender representation in media. Okay. So this study started in 1995 and occurs every 5 years. So there was one done in 1995, then one done in 2000, one done in 2005, one done in 2010, one done in 2015, and finally the latest one was done in 2020. Okay. So the GMMP, Global Media Monitoring Project, this is conducted by WACC. So WACC is the World Association of Catholic Communication, okay? And they promote communication for social change. So for the 2020 GMP, Code for Africa was actually the technical partner. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to play a little video about the GMMP for you to get a better understanding of what it's about. Okay, so that's basically an idea of GMMP. So I'm going to be talking just a bit about it in more detail. Sorry. Okay. Oops. Okay. Okay. So what happens is there's a monitoring day, and this day took place on the 29th of September 2020. Sorry, I just need to get this in full screen. Okay. Yeah. So this day took place on the 29th of September 2020. So all the participating countries which is 140 plus countries around the world, all of them on this particular day, they had a group of volunteers. And these volunteers, they sit in a room and they now monitor newspapers, radio casts, television, news website, Twitter feeds. So they sit together, and as you can see in the picture, they have all the newspapers. And then they'll have like a questionnaire or a survey form to fill in. And then there's a list of questions that they need to answer per article. For example, was this article written by a woman or a man reporter, or male and female? What is the topic? Is it politics? Is it a social issue? Is it a health issue, etc.? The survey was conducted in 5 languages. Okay. Then once the monitoring was over, all the data that was collected was now sent to Code for Africa, who developed a data analysis platform. And we worked with WACC, which is the World Association of Catholic Communication. And we then generated an analysis. So we analyzed all of this data from 140 plus countries, okay? And the results are available on a global level. So we can see what the media looks like on across all these countries. They're on a regional level, so continental level. So we have data for Africa. What does it look like on Africa compared to Asia or South America? And then on national level, so how does Nigeria compare to South Africa or Kenya, for example? Okay. So I just want to show you some of the results that came out of the 2020 report. Okay, so one important thing that I'd like to bring up is that they predicted that it would take 67 years for us to close the gender gap in media. Okay, so that's quite scary. And I mean, in 67 years, I'm not going to be alive. I may have great grandchildren by that time, but it actually is quite scary. So that's basically how they went about collecting data and monitoring data and analyzing and getting insights. So what did we now do with this data, or what can someone do with this data? What we have done is that we had awarded fellowships, and we had journalists write a variety of stories with this data. So they wrote stories on the gender disparities in media across the different African countries. So they spoke about, like, for example, even though there are more women, even though women are now increasing in politics, they are still not being the subjects of these news stories, or they're not being called on to be experts. So if someone is looking for an interview, they're not really being called in to be interviewed. Okay. Also, the lack of stories on gender-based violence. There's mostly political stories, as everyone has mentioned. There's a lot of political news stories. So that's the sort of insights that have been generated, and we've been writing stories to now bring awareness about the gender gap in media. And hopefully policymakers, CSOs, and even governments can now look and see, okay, there's this massive gap. How can we change this? Even media organizations can see, okay, why are women, there are so few women that are writing stories, and the percentage of why is there so many males in the industry? Let's see how can we now change our gender balance within our newsroom as well. So that's something else as well that we can bring across. Okay, so just a list of some of the stories: political representation, technology and trafficking, gender gap in farming, women underrepresented in media, etc. So I've linked to all these stories. You'll receive the slides and you can go through and read these stories, okay, to get a better idea of the data we've used. Okay, do we have any questions on the GMMP? Really quickly. Okay, so if there's no questions, this is now the exciting part. We're going to go through an exercise, and Joseph is going to be facilitating this exercise. Joseph, if you can drop those links into the WhatsApp group. Basically, Joseph, will you be dropping those links? Okay, sure. So basically, I have two visualizations that I am sharing. Okay. So this is the GMMP data. And I'd like you to maybe work in groups, or however you'd like to do it, or even individually. And you open up the link, and let me just explain to you briefly what's happening in this visualization. It's interactive. I want you to now look at the hidden bias. So this first visualization is on the gender representation of reporters and presenters in Nigerian media. Okay, so the black we're looking at is male and the red is female. And let me just look at the first one. So then we have 2015 and 2020 data. And then we can see how this has changed over the years. So then we have print, we have radio and television. Okay, so that's the first visualization. I want you to look at it, work in teams or groups, and now sort of look at the bias in here, and and think about how GMMP went about doing this and getting this data, and now the story you can tell from here. Okay, it's now us identifying the bias in print, radio, and television. Okay, and then we're going to look at a more interesting and in-depth visualization. Is the breakdown of reporters by major topic in Africa. So you see different topics, so social and legal, science and health, government, politics, other gender and related, etc. And then you can see what's reported in print and radio, and male versus female. Okay. So yeah, if we can work in groups, Joseph, how much of time do we actually have left? more than enough time. So maybe let's spend about 10 to 12 minutes working in groups, looking at these two visualizations. And then the remainder of the time, we can have the participants come up and tell us about some of their findings or the biases that they see in the data sets. Okay, so I'm going to be online. Joseph will be facilitating the session to help you now interpret the charts. If you need help, it will be much easier that way. So I'm just going to mute myself, but I'm online and I'll be here for the presentations. Okay, Joseph?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think for today we can just we'll be in groups the way you are seated, so in the interest of time. So maybe you can discuss, maybe you can join them so that you're three. And then you're already three. Here we have two. I don't know if there's anyone else seated in the middle. Okay, so it will be just be you two. You're three, and finally you're two. Okay. So this is group one. So you'll be working on chat one. Yeah. You can review chat one. You'll give us your comments on chat one. This will be group two, group one, group two, group one, and then group two. Yeah. So you work on chat number two, not chat number one. Yeah. About 10 minutes. So just look at the visualization, write down some comments on what you think and how it relates to bias. If you're not on the WhatsApp group, please mention it so that Joseph can chat too. You okay? No. So I think everyone should be now done. We have just a few minutes remaining, so let's hear from one person in each group for you to just mention what was your discussion about, what observations did you make, and yeah. So maybe you can update Trisha and then we can start listening.
And present some of their the biases that they've seen, or the hidden biases.
Okay.
Let me start from here. Alright, so we are going to start from this group.
So enough bias to this.
So good morning. My name is Abdulgani Abdulrahman Akabi. Okay, we are looking at the second chart, breakdown of reporters by major topic. So according to observation, we realized that in politics and government, there is a great wide range of bias against female reporters, whereby we have almost 2/3 of the 100% ratio are male reporters. For example, in print media, only 14% are present. Female reporters are present, only 14%, while their male counterparts took 86%. So we also discovered that it is only in gender and other related issues, because in Nigeria, when we talk about gender issues or gender equality, it is more of female issues. So we don't have male participating more in issue of gender equality. That's the reason why the percentage we have about female reporters in gender issue is very, very high. Whereby in print media, we have 57 against 43. We have absolute 100% in radio, while 80% against 20 in television. So these are our observation. The last one is that female are more present in television production or presentation than in any other in print and others. Radio. Thank you.
Hear us, Trisha? Can you? Okay, I think we have lost something. Hi, Trisha, can you hear me? No. Hi, Trisha. There's a moment. Okay, I think we lost her. Okay, we should continue, right? Okay.
I want to be on air personalities, and even though here in Nigeria, in this part of the world, we have more females that want to talk about gender, feminism, and all. So, and maybe some do not even want to talk about the gender and related issues, but they want to be seen on screen, they want to be heard, they want to show their accents, visual paparazzi and all. So, and we also have critiques, am I right? Critiques. Now, under this science and health, in this part of the world, Nigeria, we both disagree that male dominate. Simply because even the Health Writers Association of Nigeria, as we speak, we have more females that are members, and we have more health writers. So we are criticizing the science and health. Then also the celebrity arts and sports. We feel the sports should have different bars. Definitely, from what we observe here, we discovered that the male for the print, the male dominates for radio may dominate and also for television. But if we have different bars for sports, definitely we have the females will dominate for celebrities and art, because we have more female writing, entertainment, art and all. But for sports, definitely 100%. If not 100%, we have 95%. So those are our observations. Thank you.
Be writing more on celebrity and arts, and men will be writing more on sports.
Exactly.
Alright, this group, are you guys set?
Thank you. So we are looking at chart 1. Our findings, what we observe here shows that in 2015 to 2020, there were more men in print, which accounts for 80% of men in print in 2015, and then in 2020 we have a decrease for women. It was 20% in 2015, and then it moved to 7% in 2020, which shows that there's really a decline in the number of women reporters, the way gender is being represented. Females are not really much. They're not much compared to the figure for male from 2015 for the figure for 2015 to 2020. So there is a huge gap. And then for radio in 2015 to 2020, there was an increase for women. In 2015, women participation, it shows that there was 28% in 2015, then it moved to 36% in 2020. So there was a high number of women moved to radio. Also for television, we observed that there was a decline of female in television from 2015 to 2020. In 2015 it was 75%, and then it moved to 54%. Also, generally, we also observed that there are more women in female representation in television compared to print. Well, this is because more women want to be on soft beats, and then we don't really have more female reporters in print. So that's some of the things that we observed. So there is a need for more women in print. Thank you.
The percentage of women in television compared to radio and print. And then I was kind of thinking, could this be possibly because women are more supposedly easier on the eye and more attractive looking to be on television? And how is that now a bias? Any response to that?
Well, I think I think that more women, females generally, they tend to shy away from print because it's more or less classified as a heartbeat, some sort of, compared to television where it is only the visuals and the what's it called, and other things that compared to print. More women feels that the print media is more for men. So that's still why we have the male dominance in print up till now.
Okay, let's get another response. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
No. When no, a response for regarding that. Okay, to that first, not to present.
Just to mention that we have less than 5 minutes remaining. We need to wrap up. We
So,
actually past the time. So I
you
give you only a
observed-
minute maximum.
Okay, I agree that women tend to like being seen, and for the glamour of it, for the to show their beauty, they want to be appreciated, they want to be seen. So, and in terms of even generally, men, or let's say people, like to listen to people to those who have soft spoken accents, and we tend to get that from women than in men. So that is why we have more women in.
Looks like that is controversial. See, the men are clapping. Okay, let's have final, and Chemi, I'll give you only 1 minute or 2 minutes maximum, so you can comment on that.
Say something.
That women will sell more.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my debate. That's my debate.
Okay.
Can you repeat, Trisha? We didn't hear you.
The question was, the previous speaker had said that women want to look, they want to look all glamorous and be on TV, right? So my question is it that women want to look glamorous and be on TV, or is it that television news stations now want to have female reporters because women sell more news, or people want to look at women presenting?
Yeah, looks like everyone agrees with that.
You have said it all. All right.
Okay, final person.
Final presentation from Group 1 here. That's the final one we have for today.
All right, thank you, Trisha. So we have slide 1. And then we observed, just like the previous speaker, that in 2015 there were 20% female representation in the print media, and then it dropped in 2020 to 7%. And then we are, we're thinking of what could have been the causes. And then one of it is that print media is quite tough and time-consuming. For example, where I work, there was a time where, I wouldn't get to my house until 2 a.m. And it was like a continuous thing. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I think of recent, it became 12 a.m. So most women who are married, and then because of safety and security issues, they try to avoid such situation. That's one of the reason. And then one of the reasons why we feel that there was a decline is the advent of online media. Even if you like to write, you necessarily might not have to go through the stress of production and being in the office all day. So you can be at wherever your workstation is, and then you are still writing. So I think that the 13% that dropped necessarily didn't all go to the radio and the TV. Some of them actually, dropped into the online medium. Especially in Nigeria, we have a lot of online news medium coming up. Another reason why I feel generally there are less female representation is the conditioning of the mind right from classrooms. When you go to schools, you see that there are a lot of mass communication students, and then when it's time to pick field, some of them would rather go to advertising, public relations, TV, more beyond print, because somehow the woman has been conditioned that she can sell more of a face than an intellect, and then that's how the society has somehow conditioned the woman. And then it also appears in the kind of news that we sell, even as media outlet. You find out that there are hardly hard stories about women. It is when it's time to sell sex, when it's time to sell certain soft things, that's when you see women representation in our news story. For radio, which is in 2015, I think we have 28% representation. I think it still boils down to the fact that women like soft appealing to the highs, and then they want to be seen. However, there's an increase in 2020. I also feel that one of the reasons is because there are radio stations that now live stream. Right from your studio, you can be seen from anywhere. Anyone who can connect to the internet and connect to your station, you'll be seen directly. So I think that has also helped to awaken interest of some women in radio. What's it called now? The radio
Journalism
platform. And then for television, naturally we had 75 representation of women, 75%, and 25 representation of men, because I was still tied to the conditioning of the mind that women are beautiful, women are more appealing to the high, and then they would like to be seen. But now we can see that the men are matching up, and then we have 46% in 2020, meaning that people are beginning to see that, okay, beyond the pretty face, there is something upstairs in the head of the lady that is standing before your screen. So men are beginning to see that, okay, this shouldn't just be for aesthetics. We also can actually, yes, we also have a brain, and then we should also be there. And then there's the part where men are beginning to pay more attention to fashion. With the Generation Z that we have, they are beginning to pay more attention to the fashion and their looks, so they can as well, as much as you have something in your head, now you also have a fine face to show that would attract and sustain the attention of your audience. Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you so much.
There's something I want you to think about and maybe discuss later during your lunch break or tea break or whatever it is. So because we have this huge gender disparity, how would this now affect the news reportage or more opinionated pieces? For example, how would the mind of, if we receive mostly news from the opinion of a man compared to the opinion of a woman, how is this going to affect the news or the bias of the news, especially in these sort of topics as well? Like, people spoke about women mostly speaking on gender and related. So you're mostly seeing it from a female's point of view. You're not really seeing it from a male's point of view. But all the other topics, social and legal, etc., you're seeing it from a man's point of view. Are you saying anything from a female's point of view? How would that now affect bias in the media? Okay, that's something that we need to dig deep down into, and this actually ties in with mapping out the biases. So it's not only about male and female, it's about how they report and how their different opinions can now communicate bias if we only have males compared to female. Like, for example, the abortion bill that's being very controversial right now in the US. They say that a lot of the decisions are being made by men, but and there's very little females that are being able to make the decision when when they're making a decision about a female's body. Okay, so that sort of thing. Yeah. So just think about that. Have that at the back of your mind, and think about the difference between males reporting and females reporting, and if there's no equality, how is that going to bring across a bias in opinionated speeches, stories especially. Okay, so I think we're up, time's up, and I think we actually went over time. But yeah, back to you, Joseph.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Trisha. And I hope you had fun and at least you learned something about the kind of media publications that we have in Nigeria, and how probably we can improve on, especially the gender equality perspective. So the only other thing that I wanted to mention is, after this, we are going to have now the team here actually talking about what they've been doing in relation to religious extremism and religious freedom topic. So prepare for that, but we have some tea at the back. You have about 15 minutes, so please go and pick your tea and then come remain seated, so that once we are at 11:15, we can continue with the next session. Thank you.